May is Women's Health Month, and what is more important than mental health? And it seems like in our society, there's just growing and growing problems with anxiety, depression, and actually depression is the other side of the coin of anxiety, because you can't have depression unless you've had stress for a while, which causes anxiety and then causes depression. So they're two sides of the coin. Then we have more irritability, we have bipolar, and then we have even more of a growing disease process, which is very serious, which is, dementia and Alzheimer's as we get older. So if we can solve some of this stuff and kind of work with our mental health at a slightly younger age before we get there, we can actually prevent some of those things, and there's new research showing that. So my name is Dawn Cutillo. I'm the founder of BeBalanced. I'm helping women balance their hormones by giving them lifestyle tips. Okay, so today we're going to talk about mental health. So let's get into it and let's just talk about neurochemicals and hormones, because I'm going to probably explain this in a way that you might have never heard before, because I confer with PhDs. I also go by empirical evidence, and I also do a lot of research. What's out there? What are the studies backing up what I'm actually seeing with thousands of clients that I worked with? So let me say this. You can't have, it's a pretty definitive statement, but I'm going to say you can't have a true neurochemical imbalance, which we think of as like dopamine and serotonin. They're the ones we hear a lot. I don't want to get too complicated, but we are going to talk about them. You can't have a neurochemical imbalance without having an underlying hormonal imbalance. Now you might say, how do you know that? Well, because I've seen it with thousands of women, okay? And actually, it's very, very hard to test for a neurochemical imbalance. I mean, you do a spinal tap, or they just do questions. And usually the doctor goes by talking to you and seeing what's going on. So really, that's a little bit harder, but yet we're popping out pills for that super easy. Hormones are a little bit easier because you can go by symptoms. You can go, which is what we do at BeBalanced. You could get a urine test or a saliva test or a blood test, which isn't quite as accurate, but there are ways of doing that. So let's talk about neurochemicals and hormones. And like I said, they're connected. And, we think of neurochemicals in here and hormones in the body, but really they're both everywhere. And neurochemicals are actually connected a lot more to the gut, which we're learning. So let's talk about this. Neurochemical imbalances, hormonal imbalances, all start with stress. And some people say, well, I don't have that much stress. Well, I don't think so. Because even if you say, oh, I have a great marriage and I am a millionaire, so we have no financial stress, no problem. My kids are angels. I mean, do you know anybody like that? But let's just say that's true, right? They would also have to say, I've had no childhood traumas. I have no self-esteem issues. I am very self-aware. I mean, that's pretty rare. We all have insecurities and things, and that's all stress. And we all have childhood traumas and things that are still inside of us that we might not have worked out. Plus, we all have physiological stress. Physiological stress would be like exercise, being in the heat or the cold. So maybe you don't have any of that, but you have a cell phone. You're looking at it right now, probably, right? So you have a cell phone, the EMF's coming off that. Cortisol in light causes a lot of problems. That light raises cortisol, artificial lights. So we all have some type of physiological stress, even the toxins in our food. So we all have stress, and it's how much we can handle of that stress. Does genetics play a part? Yes, genetics plays a part in what diseases or disease processes we're set up for, but lifestyle has to trigger it. So if your parents and grandparents had mental health issues, it doesn't mean that you have to. Same thing with hormone imbalances. If you can get to the heart of the issue, correct the neurochemical imbalance, correct the hormone imbalance, and just rebalance the body, you don't have to get these end disease processes. Okay, so let's talk about this. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple charts, and I'm going to try to make it a little bit easier. But basically, when we're under stress, we've heard of adrenaline, right? Adrenaline lets the mom pick up the car when her child got run over or something. It's like crazy, like it gives you that stress. So adrenaline always gets kicked out. But also cortisol, which is the one you hear of even more, which is the stress hormone that helps us deal with stress, but that comes more with chronic stress. Okay. So an episodic quick thing, adrenaline, I need to run away from the bear or the lion, whereas the ongoing stress of the day or weeks and months is the cortisol, okay? So let's talk about that. To make it easy, I'm going to show you this chart here. Now, this chart is showing dopamine and serotonin. We're going to just stick with them because we talk about them, right? SSRI drugs or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors that give us more serotonin, okay? So let's look at this. Serotonin and dopamine are on a seesaw, and they should be balanced. So what happens is when you're under extra stress, your body will deplete dopamine. Dopamine's the happy neurochemical. Serotonin is impulse control. Serotonin is not happiness, it's impulse control, okay? So what happens is there's certain amino acids and cofactors that are needed to make dopamine, but they're also needed to make adrenaline. So when you're under high stress and you produce high adrenaline, your body will make your dopamine go down. And when your dopamine goes down, you're not quite as happy. And then when your serotonin goes up, you can see at the top here, impulse control taken to the nth degree is you're paralyzed. You can't move, you can't do it. I don't mean physically, but emotionally, you're paralyzed. And you're clinging to the ceiling and you're depressed and you don't want to do anything. Okay? That's depression. Now, if we bring that down and we're balanced, that's going to be good. Now, would you ever have your serotonin go so low and your dopamine go high? That would only be with the use of certain drugs. But let me say this, when your serotonin goes too low, that's your impulse control goes too low. We don't want that. Then you're wearing a lampshade on your hat and you're jumping around and you're dancing at a party a little crazy. Okay. So we don't want that either. Now let's flip that back up again. Now, when dopamine goes a little bit higher, that's okay. But when it goes too high, you become paranoid. Okay. Then when dopamine goes too low the other way, when the seesaw flips, you can actually not control your muscles. I mean, long term, it could be even Parkinson's disease. So the goal is to keep these two balanced, and neurochemicals need to be balanced. But when the doctor says you have depression or anxiety, he'll either put you on an SSRI drug like a Prozac, or he'll put you on an SNRI drug, which is going to be something that's a little bit different, like Effexor or something like that. But they're both affecting, I won't get too deep into this, but they're both affecting the neurochemical balance. Okay? So the problem is when you are imbalanced, the serotonin levels, they act like the serotonin levels are going low, and they're not. They're actually going higher. So when you take a drug like Prozac, which is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, it keeps more serotonin there. And you're saying, well, Dawn, wait a minute. If we already have too much, why do you want more? They don't even know how the drugs work. Basically what they say is the theory that holistic people give or PhD gives is when you give more serotonin, when you already have too much, it burns out the receptor site and it goes back down to normal. So that's the one example with this chart I want you to see, is that when they feel that the serotonin is low, they give a drug to raise it, but really it's already high. So you can see how balancing neurochemicals is really complicated, but that gives you an example of what's going on with the neurochemicals. Okay, now I'll put the chart away. Okay, so now we're back. I know that might have seemed complicated, but basically what I'm trying to say is when you're under stress, quick, acute, episodic stress, your body needs more of a, I'll just say chemical or building block that is needed for dopamine. And then your dopamine starts going down and then you start to feel depressed. Your serotonin goes up. And then you could either go on a drug or you could try to say, hey, let me look at what else I can do. Maybe I can work with my hormones. Okay, now let's look at this chart for your hormones. When stress goes up, the hormone cortisol goes up to buffer us from the stress. So cortisol is not bad. We need it to buffer us from stress. Then when that's up too long and the body can't make enough cortisol to buffer us, it steals from a hormone called progesterone. And progesterone is able to make cortisol. This is scientific fact. And then you're low in progesterone and you're more dominant in estrogen. And you can see that happens with a younger girl. And there's PMS issues, but there's weight, there's mood, there's sleep issues. But then when you get to be an older woman and your progesterone goes really low, your estrogen comes down a little bit. This is when you go through menopause, and then you have a real imbalance. Then you gain more weight. You have all types of hot flashes, night sweats, all that kind of stuff. So that's what's happening there with the cortisol. Now, why does it matter? Because progesterone is your best friend. You don't want to be low on progesterone. Progesterone will help anxiety. Progesterone will help depression. So when it goes too low, it also, you don't sleep as well, which is going to feed into more mental illness. When it goes too low, you crave, you gain weight, you can have PMS, you have endometriosis, you can have fibroids, all those things. So we need more progesterone. And that's what BeBalanced helps you to do, and I'll explain that at the end. But when estrogen is dominant, estrogen does the opposite of progesterone, and estrogen causes you to be more hungry, gain weight, retain fluid, but it also causes a type of anxiety in you that eventually leads to depression. It causes you not to be able to sleep, which is going to progress mental illness, and then it could also lead to fibroids, endometriosis, female-related cancers. So as you can see on this chart, this is a hormonal imbalance that we can fix simply at BeBalanced, but that is playing into your mood. Okay, now we're back. So now you can see that stress, whether it's acute, episodic, or whether it's chronic, it's going to cause you to have issues with your dopamine and serotonin, but also your estrogen and progesterone. So I don't want to get too complicated with it. So what we can do is we can either just, I think I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I can go to the doctor, I can get on a drug, but there's side effects and there's problems and they don't even know how they work. So basically the drugs are SNRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, Prozac example, or something like Effexor, SNRI, which again is going to do something a little bit different. It's going to try to raise dopamine a little bit. So one's kind of raising dopamine, one's raising serotonin. The drugs that actually work, and they're pretty simple to understand, but they're highly addictive, is benzodiazepines, like things like Xanaxes, okay? So that's great. We figured out they work, but now we're like, oh my gosh, what are we, crazy? These are hugely addictive, and now they're trying to wean people off them. But what they do is they increase GABA. Now, GABA we haven't talked about. Serotonin, dopamine. GABA is a neurochemical that makes you feel calm. It's like a natural Xanax, and that's what the benzos work on. Well, guess what else works on that? Progesterone. So as we get into the hormones, we're going to talk about that. So that's what your options are. You can get on benzos, you can get on SSRIs, SNRIs. There's negative side effects. You lose your sex drive. Oh, that's fun, right? Your sex drive gives you vitality for life. That's why people are like comatose. So you don't feel the bad, but you don't feel the good. And I'd rather feel joy at times and happiness and elation and actually have a sex drive than just be comatose all the time. But yet I don't go down here. Emotions are meant to go up and down. We just don't want them to be too unstable, right? So that's what's going on there. But the other thing you can do for, if you don't want to go on drugs, is you can start to work on the gut. What we're finding is the bacteria in the gut and the balance of the microbiome, good bacteria versus bad bacteria and candida, we can balance that out with diet, with supplements. So if you want to do something for mental health that's going to help your neurochemicals, it's all found in the gut. And BeBalanced has gut health programs. We can get rid of your candida. We can build up your good bacteria. So lifestyle change is key for mental health. But the other thing is, I would say, let's work on your hormones. So at BeBalanced, we have just a quick test you can do. It's just a check-off test based on your symptoms, and we can see what types of symptoms you have. And if we can see certain symptoms are leading to estrogen dominance and progesterone deficiency, which is like 95% of women, we say, why don't we balance the neurochemicals? Why don't we balance the neurochemicals by balancing the hormones? Because think about how a young girl feels right before her cycle, her menstrual cycle. She feels really depressed because her hormones are messed up. But as soon as her cycle gets through and her hormones balance a little more, she's not depressed anymore. That's proof that anxiety and depression are connected to hormones. So at BeBalanced, what do? We teach lifestyle changes, for sure. Let's get your stress down. Let's do relaxation therapy. Let's balance out the foods and don't take in all these toxic foods. Let's work on your gut health. Let's help you lose weight quickly. That's going to help your mood too. But let's also gently bring up progesterone. And we do it with a plant-based progesterone, and it balances out estrogen. And guess what? If you're an older woman and your estrogen's low too, that's going to come up as well. And we're not even going to give it to you. Your body's going to release it from your tissue. We have tons of stories on that. You come in, you're low on both. We give you progesterone, your body releases estrogen because it can make it in the tissues, even up until 80s or 90s. So we never need to give estrogen. But we take it one step further. We say, we know you're under stress. So we have our Soothe Stress Cream. And that is another cream. Our creams go right into the bloodstream. And that gives adrenal support. You can do that through adaptogen herbs like ginseng, ashwagandha. Our chemist, we have a chemist that works right for BeBalanced, uses maca, because there's been a lot of National Institutes of Health studies on that. So we use maca, we use pre-hormones like DHA and pregnenolone. We get the stress response calmed down. We massage that poor little adrenal gland that's to put out the cortisol, right? We do that. We raise progesterone and balance the hormones. We work on gut health. That's it. That's the full story. That's the way to deal with mental health issues. Now, how do I know this? Let me tell you, I've been in the field 30, I don't even know. I'm getting up there, 33 years, working with hormones for 25, work with thousands of women in the Lancaster Center, and I see it. It's empirical evidence. We see that when we balance women's hormones, they go off their psychotropic drugs. We do not take them off. They go back to their doctor and they say, hey, I'm feeling good. It's not like I want to be on Prozac forever. And the doctor's like, okay, well, we can wean you off. The hardest ones to wean off of are the benzodiazepines, the Xanaxes and stuff. So you got to go very slow with them. So at BeBalanced, I've seen hundreds, thousands of women improve their mood, improve their sleep, which helps their mood, and then be able to go off these drugs. And also, when you lose weight and you feel better and your headaches go away and your hot flashes go away, you're just going to be in a better mood anyway. So mood is definitely connected to how you look and feel. So that was my message today. You can't really have a neurochemical imbalance, which justifies drugs, unless you have an underlying hormonal imbalance. Hormonal imbalances are easier to spot. There's actually testing for them. If you don't believe our symptom test, everything we're doing is natural, so it doesn't matter anyway. They're natural, they're easier to deal with. Plus, the side effects are weight loss, better sleep, helping with your PMS and menopausal symptoms by balancing your hormones. So our goal is to balance the hormones, which will balance the neurochemicals, also work with the gut. And in the process, if you do our full weight loss program, lose 15 to 20 pounds in a month. That'll put anybody in a good mood. So at Be Balanced, we're here to take the guesswork out of weight loss and wellness. And that also includes mental health, because we're hormone experts and we're specialized, and this is what we specialize in. So come in and see us. Just do a free consultation. We do them virtually, we do them in person. Check out BeBalancedCenters.com and you'll see if there is a BeBalanced Center in your area. If there's not, we do virtual consultations. We also have a free hormone assessment online that you can see, like, are my hormones holding me back? You'll probably see the answer is yes. And then we're excited to meet with you, because for women and for anybody, mental health is so important, because it's what helps you enjoy life. And if you balance, we are here to help you look and feel your best at any age.